The committee decided that tonight it would be awarded posthumously to Gordon Torreson, our friend. We'll talk a little bit about the Corinthian Award because it does have quite a history in the fact that it was thought up and developed by a gentleman named Jim Pilatus. Now, Jim was old when I arrived here, so most of you won't remember him. But Jim was an avid 210 sailor and became a senior race officer, and has the claim to fame that I remember most about was how they backed up wind and swamped a Miko one day before the start of the race. So everything was quite held up until we rescued the boat, got the boat bailed out. But Jim thought that there were certain sailors in the club at the time that deserved some recognition. And when he decided and talked about it, he allowed that he would never, ever become nominated for this award, because if you knew Jim, it was a little bristly and just a shade too competitive. So, but the result was that, as my friend Mark Cantor said, it kind of decimated the 210 fleet. But a great guy and had a great idea. And so the first year, the nomination in 1991 was for Steve Ulrich, Pat Sagan, and Ken Gray for their efforts in getting a J-24 fleet going. And if you know these three guys, they were fabulous. They not only went and tuned other people's boats, they would take crew on their boats and exchange crew and did everything to get the program ramped up. And I suspect that there's somewhat of that going on in the Melges fleet even today. So they were really a great first selection for this group, this trophy. There have been a number of people mentioned and been identified for the trophy. And I'll name a few. In 1992, it was Ken Gray, Steve Ulrich, and Pat Sagan. In 97, it was Bob Schutich, who sailed a Erickson 30-something. Batmas 34, 5, 6, I don't know. So, following that was Mark Cantor. Following that in 04 was myself and Jim McCall. In 09, it was Judy Miller, and that was a great night, but that was a sad time too. Anyhow, following that in 2011, was Bob Harvey. In 2015, we recognized Scott and Lisa Corder. In 2016, Greg Young, and this year, Gordon Torreson. Woo! So the stories are of these folks. There's some kind of unique, and I won't dwell on them because I want to talk about Gordon in a minute. But Bob Schutich was a very strong competitor in our group for a while. This would be back in the late 80s, early 90s. And so he was nominated for the award, and I think Mort tried to address it. And they said, well, we gave him the award because he was so excited when he got his prize. And I thought to myself, well, that's not Bobby Cox. But so anyhow, he was awarded. So when in doing the same conversation, I said to Mark Cantor, why were you nominated? He said, well, I made almost every Wednesday night race, but he said, I think my main claim to fame here was that I helped get the swimming pool built. So he said, wow, that's gotta be the award. So those were a few of the names that came up along the way, all well-deserved and very interesting. But to go and talk about my friend Gordon Torreson, and Kathleen is here tonight. And, I want to recognize Kathleen being here, carrying on in the tradition. But just to give you a little hint of what went on, in the mid-60s, Brunswick was developing their automatic pin setter program production here, and we're bringing in a lot of staff, engineering people from the East Coast, And 3 New York, Long Island kind of guys arrived here. Tony Gretzky, Mike Gottrod, and Gordon Torreson. All avid sailors. Gordon happened to buy the house across the road that had the garage, and that was great because he was the only one in town that had any tools. So he always had an extra can of paint, a shackle, a micropress tool, whatever. And if you call, in those days, no marine stores, no sailboat marinas. If you wanted something, you either drove to Grand Rapids, had somebody go to the only store in Chicago that sold it, or no internet. So he was very handy and was very accommodating and made sure that it was available for everybody. When he decided to leave Brunswick and start his own operation, they bought or owned a little store on the corner that's now the convenience store, and that was Torres and Green as I remember it. I wanted to mention that at the same time, he was invited to become Commodore and actually served Commodore for 3 terms. The club was on kind of tough times footings, and the scallywags that were running it were really disreputable. And so Gordon was brought in with his very calm, methodical manner, and so the sales went off the chart. They just were great. All of a sudden, it's 4 deep at the bar on Friday, and food sales were up, liquor sales were great. So I said to him one day, "What did you do to increase the volume so much?" He said, "Well, it might have been the 3 martinis for $1 that we put in." Well, Gordon was an avid supporter of Muskegon Yacht Club, and what he did in the terms of providing equipment, race committee boats, still today, we're using the Mako and whalers and different things with them. They're quick to jump in and help us with taking the pole down or whatever is necessary. And when Gordon was doing it, there was never any charge for his time. His was all volunteer. And I think over the years, Torres and Green has supported every sailing event, every regatta, everything. Whenever we needed anything, they were always standing by. So Gordon's desire to see racing flourish on Muskegon Lake never lapsed. And while he aged out on active competition, his support was still evident. Thanks, Gordon.
And to this day, we are so grateful for this wonderful neighbor we have.